honored to be in this group. As many people have noted, AI raises deep questions about the human person, which is why Pope Leo has said that the church's anthropological vision needs to be an essential tool of pastoral discernment. AI is not unique in this anthropological challenge. Every technology is created in light of a worldview, a picture of the person. But what's interesting is that our use of these technologies reflects this worldview back to us. In Laudato Si', Pope Francis observed that we have to accept that technological products aren't neutral, for they create a framework which ends up conditioning lifestyles and shaping social possibilities. Chen Valor and Anton Barbacai have expressed a similar insight when they describe digital technology as acting as a mirror, reflecting our vision of ourselves back to us. This insight is especially true of a technology that claims to imitate our intelligence. So there's a great need to take care that AI doesn't become a distorting mirror, portraying a picture of ourselves that bears little resemblance to the truth of our dignity as created in the image of God. In few areas is this danger more present than the application of AI to neurotechnology, like brain-computer interfaces, which the previous speakers gave many examples of these. BCIs are devices and then translate that activity either into information, or they can also be used to control a device, like a computer cursor or a prosthetic limb. Recent developments have shown great promise in allowing people with disabilities and neurodegenerative diseases to communicate, and engage the world, move about, act. Though BCIs are possible without AI, machine learning has greatly reduced the challenges of correctly processing neural signals into meaningful information, eliminating the need for lengthy training sessions. For these reasons, AI has been closely tied to advances in BCI. And I think when we're using these to help people with severe disability, these therapeutic applications are things that should be applauded because they're serving some of the most disadvantaged members of society. Yet other people want to move beyond therapeutic applications to make BCIs all-purpose devices for interfacing with the world. For example, Apple is teaming up with Synchron to develop BCIs that would control their consumer devices. Some commentators even see BCIs as a vehicle for transhumanist dreams of merging with machines. These visions are more problematic, frequently involving a false understanding of the person that can then influence social systems. So in my remaining time, I'd like to explore 3 mistaken ideas of the person that could be reinforced by widespread use of BCIs. I'll organize these concerns around the reduction of the self to the brain, the reduction of thought to computation, and the reduction of the world to material for use through a frictionless interface. The first danger, reduction of the self to the brain, arises from the broader social dominance of what scholars have described as a neuromania, or a brain discourse, that lies in the background of many popular discussions of behavior and society. This brain discourse uses the term brain as a stand-in for the mind or the self, or even as a separate causal entity existing apart from the self. You'll hear people say, my brain made me do it. Popular books speak of brains as making emotions, making us good or bad. Whole social categories have different brains, including teenagers, criminals, and the addicted. BCIs reinforce this discursive trend by emphasizing the power of a potential direct access to the brain. Yet while the brain is an important aspect of and material substrate for thought, this extreme brain discourse leads to social and philosophical danger. First, it can medicalize social and personal problems, reducing complex structural or moral issues to matters of brain chemistry or neuronal activity. People picture crime as caused by neural pathways without mentioning socioeconomic problems. Loneliness is blamed on neurotransmitters rather than the loss of community. If we incorrectly diagnose social problems, we'll come to incorrect solutions involving brain implants or pharmaceuticals rather than social or pastoral interventions. Second is philosophers like Alvanoe have described thought, perception, and consciousness extend beyond the brain, depending on the body and the environment. Antiqua et Nova, the recently released Vatican document on AI, emphasizes the importance of this broader corporeality for the relationship of the human thought to reality. Now, that's not to say that BCIs inevitably will reinforce a reduction of mind to brain. I don't think we should be technological determinists. But more grandiose visions of BCI-enhanced thought may run this danger. A related error is the modeling of the human mind as working like a computer. Elon Musk, along with others, has said the brain is a biological computer. And he discusses thought in terms of measurable units of computational speed. This error extends to the origins of AI research when Alan Turing proposed that machines could think. Yet, as Pope Leo argues, quote, the person is not a system of algorithms. He or she is a creature, relationship, mystery. Philosopher John Searle and phenomenologists like Dan Zahavi have noted that reductions of thought to computing miss the semantic, meaning-imbued nature of human thought and its intentionality, its directionality towards things in the world. It misses resources like and capacities like abduction. However, by allowing AI to interface directly with brains, BCIs seem to underline an equivalence between the two, and an equivalence explicitly encouraged by their booster. Such an equivalence leaves little space for forms of thought beyond logical or statistical manipulation, like contemplation. Mistaken understanding of thought as pure calculation may mar education and cause us to fail to see where human thought leaves distinct advantages in the workplace. Of course, if one keeps the distinction between thought and AI in mind, BCIs need not reinforce this error, but I fear that it runs rampant in many of these discussions. The third error, envisioning a frictionless engagement with the world as material for our use, is perhaps the most interesting because it strikes at the heart of what is new about BCI, their novel interface. Much of the effect of new computing technologies comes about through changes in interface. Graphical user interfaces like Windows or devices like the mouse transform computers from an instrument for specialists into a tool for everyone. Similarly, BCIs promise a new ease in interfacing with technology. No hands are necessary, just think and it's done. The problem is that, as the great Catholic scholars of media, Marshall McLuhan and Walter Ong suggested, technologies have deep effects on our perception of the world and modes of thought. The interface not only allows us better access to the world, but also shapes how we see the world. The picture presented by BCIs is that we can act upon the world merely through our thoughts, as the tool is forgotten due to the lack of a visible interface. The world may come to seem fully plastic to our will. Of course, that's not the case, as there will still be failures of instruments and materials, but I would argue that this is the worldview natural to BCI. In this, it follows a broader drive in technology design, to seek a frictionless fulfillment of our desires in which nothing of reality presses back against our will, so that we come to consider the world as completely open to manipulation and consumption. Pope Francis sees this as a danger besetting all modernity, a worldview he termed the technocratic paradigm, caused in part by the power of our tools. With this mindset, we fail to see the intrinsic purposes and goodness of creation, leading to the oppression of others and the destruction of nature in order to fulfill our will. Yet this stance rebounds on our own life as we lose what the sociologist Hartmut Rosa calls a resonance with the world. Moreover, just as BCIs open up a direct path for us to act upon the world, they correspondingly open a path for others to act upon us. BCIs are already becoming a tool that those in power can use to monitor workers, as previous speakers have suggested. More direct actions, such as manipulation of thoughts and moods, may become possible. As we design and use BCIs, we can come to think of ourselves in a reductionist fashion as merely brains whose behavior is determined by neurological factors. Our thoughts become mere exercises in computation. We lose the world as it becomes data and material for manipulation, and in turn, we become material for others to use. So if some of the basic issues are anthropological in nature, then any ethical response that doesn't take anthropology into account may just reinforce the problem. Take the just recently discussed neuro rights framework. In and of themselves, these neuro rights, which include rights like privacy, mental integrity, self-determination, and equal access, are good. However, problems arise if we don't conceive these rights within a proper anthropology. Protecting privacy can reinforce the model of mind as a computer if privacy becomes merely the protection of thought as data. Mental integrity and self-determination can reinforce a technocratic paradigm of the independent will standing against the world if the person is not understood as embedded in deep relation to the world. Most dangerously, the right to equal access threatens to embolden the push for a transhumanist future of combining mind with machine. Thus, neuro rights alone will not be sufficient if they are not developed in concert with a proper model of mind, the person, and society. It's only by deploying a proper anthropology that the dangers inherent to current instantiations of BCIs can be confronted and we can fully reap their benefits. Thank you.